At the end of Kena Bridge of Spirits, Kena reaches the mountain shrine. The corruption is gone. Every spirit she helped has moved on. The rot who traveled with her the whole way, gone too. And she doesn't get to see her father. She sits down, she meditates, and that's it. All along, that's what this journey was really about. That's Kena Bridge of Spirits. Here is the full story, and what I think Scars of Kosmora is going to follow up on. When Bridge of Spirits came out, a lot of reviews called the story thin, two-dimensional, not fleshed out enough. And I get it. On the surface, it looks like a beautiful game with a simple story, but when you actually sit with what each character goes through, and what Kena herself is carrying the whole time, there's a lot more going on than it first appears. This is a story about grief, about the different ways people and spirits hold on to the past and what it costs them. It's about a girl who spent so long helping other people let go that she almost missed the fact that she needed to do the same thing. I'm going to cover the full story, the characters, and the details that I think matter most, including what the rot actually are, because most people finish this game without fully clocking it, and it changes the way the whole thing reads. And then, we'll talk about Scars of Kosmora, because there's one word Ember Lab used to describe the sequel that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Let's start at the beginning. Kena is a spirit guide, a person with a rare gift, the ability to see spirits of the dead and help them move on to the afterlife. In this world, when someone dies with unfinished business, grief they couldn't resolve, people they couldn't protect, guilt they couldn't let go of, their spirit gets trapped. It lingers between the physical world and the spirit world, and the longer that it stays, the more the land around it decays. That corruption you're fighting through the whole game, it's not some outside evil force. It's unprocessed grief made physical, which is a quietly devastating thing to build a game around. Kena has been doing this almost her whole life, village to village, helping the dead find peace. When the game starts, she's traveling to a place called the Sacred Mountain Shrine. The village near it is abandoned, the forest is corrupted, and almost immediately she's confronted by a powerful mass spirit, warning her to turn back. Despite this, she presses on, and she starts picking up companions, little black creatures with big eyes called the Rot. They seem drawn to her. They follow her everywhere. What they actually are? Well, we'll get to that. The first spirit Kena is asked to help is Taro. She meets two young spirits in the forest, Beni and Saiya, who desperately want to find their older brother. We don't learn right away that Beni and Saiya are spirits too. That comes a little later. But what we feel immediately is how much they need him. Taro's story is one of guilt and self-blame. When a sickness spread through the village, he was the one left to look after his younger siblings. He tried to get help. He went out into the forest, and when he tried to make his way back, a mysterious blast of energy knocked him unconscious. He lost track of Beni and Saiya. He searched for them with everything he had left, but he never found them. They all sadly died, and Taro never forgave himself. That guilt, the feeling that he'd failed the two people he loved most, had been eating at him ever since, twisting him. Eventually, it turned him into something monstrous, literally. When Kena finally frees him, she doesn't tell him that it was fine. She tells him his siblings don't blame him, that it wasn't his fault, that they still love and need him. And that's enough. He finally sees Beni and Saiya again, and the three spirits are able to move on together. After they're gone, Kana is alone again, and Zaju, an older spirit she's met in the village, tells her something important. That this is the life of a spirit guide. You form bonds, you help them let go, and then you mourn them. Remember that, because it's gonna matter. Next is Adira, the village woodsmith. Adira's story is about love and the fear of forgetting. Her partner Hana sailed away during the hard times to find food and supplies for the village. Months passed. No word came back. Eventually, the village decided Hana was gone and that they needed to leave. But Adira couldn't go. Because leaving felt like giving up. Like accepting that Hana wasn't coming back. And she was terrified if she left, if life moved on, she'd start to forget. Forget Hana's face, forget what they'd built together, forget the love that they had. So, she stayed, and she built. She channeled the energy of the mountain into a lighthouse, something Hana could see from the sea and follow home. She was still building it when the mountain shrine exploded and the village was wiped out. Kana finds Hana's spirit and brings them back to each other, and she tells Adira something she needed to hear. Their love wasn't stored in the things that they had built together. It couldn't be lost. What they had was real, and it lives on, even now, even here, even after everything that had happened. Adira and Hana can finally move on together. And Kana is left alone. Again. The final spirit, the one Kana has been building towards the whole game, the masked figure who confronted her at the start. This is Toshi, former leader of the village. Toshi watched as his people suffered. Sickness, famine, the slow collapse of everything he'd built and protected. He went to Zaju, the village elder, looking for answers. Zaju told him that it was the natural cycle of the rock god, that change was a part of life, that they had to accept it and to move on. But Toshi couldn't accept this. He climbed the mountain shrine and confronted the rock god directly. He demanded to know why his people were suffering, why the world would allow this. And the rock god gave him no answer. So in that moment of frustration, Toshi killed it. That explosion, the one that wiped out the village and everyone in it, including Taro and his siblings, that was Toshi. A man who loved his people so deeply that he couldn't accept their suffering, and in trying to fight back against it, ended up destroying everything. That is what grief looks like when it's given no outlet. When loss is met with pure refusal. Now, here's where Kana's story gets really personal. Toshi confronts Kana. He's more powerful than anything she has faced. He forces her out of his memories and then does something worse. He sends her into her own. We see Kana as a child, and we learn the truth about why she's really here. Kana's father was a spirit guide, a great one, and he's gone. She lost him, and she spent her whole life following in his footsteps, trying to be worthy of his legacy. She believed that if she helped enough spirits, became good enough, she might reach the mountain shrine and somehow find him again, even if it's just to say goodbye. Toshi calls her out on it, directly. She wasn't helping the spirits of his village purely out of kindness. She was helping them for herself, so she could reach the shrine, so she could get what she came for. And the brutal thing is, he's not entirely wrong. This forces Kana to confront something she'd been carrying the whole journey. Her grief, her hope, the part of her that hadn't let go either. She does push through, she gets stronger, and she comes back to confront Toshi again. And this time, she ends up helping Toshi the same way she helped everyone else. Not with force, but with honesty. She tells him that no person was meant to carry that much pain, that grief is a natural part of life, but that it can imprison us, that nothing in the past can be changed, and that he has to forgive himself before the land can begin to heal. With that, Toshi and Zaju move on, together. With Toshi gone and the corruption lifting, Kana finally reaches the mountain shrine. And here's where we talk about the rot. All game, they've been her companions, following her around, helping her fight, wearing cute tiny little hats. They feel like the mascots, the comic relief, the cute little sidekicks. But what the game confirms at the end is that the rot are fragments of the rock god, the deity that Toshi killed. When it died, it shattered, and those pieces have been wandering the corrupted land ever since. The cute little creatures Kana collected one by one throughout her entire journey, each one is a fragment of something sacred. At the summit, Kana releases them. The rot come together. The rot god is restored. The corruption clears from the mountain, and the natural cycle of life is ready to begin again. The game doesn't tell us exactly what happens to the rot god after that. Whether it fully crosses over or simply returns to its role in the world, it's left open to interpretation. What matters is that the wound Toshi created is healed. The cycle can continue. And then Kana is alone at the top of the mountain. Kana sits down at the mountain shrine and meditates. She doesn't get to see her father. There is no reunion, no goodbye. Just her, alone, with everything she came for out of reach. And I think that's exactly the point. Every spirit she helped taught her the same lesson in a different shape. Taro needed to forgive himself for not saving the people he loved. Adira needed to believe that love doesn't disappear just because a person does. And Toshi needed to accept that some things can't be fought or fixed, only grieved. Kana taught all of them to let go. And at the top of that mountain, sitting alone, she finally does it herself. She lays her father's staff down, the one she'd been carrying the whole journey, the one that connected her to him, and she lets it go. It's bittersweet in the way only really honest stories can be. She didn't get what she wanted. She got something harder and more important, the ability to move forward without it. What makes it land, I think, is that Kana's growth wasn't really about becoming a better spirit guide. It was about becoming a person who could live with loss, not carry it, not run from it, just live with it. The game doesn't spell any of this out loudly. It trusts you to feel it, and that, more than the animation, or the music, or any of it, is why I think it earns the Pixar comparison. This brings us to Scars of Kosmora. The sequel was announced earlier this year out of nowhere. Kana is older, more experienced. She's traveling to an island called Kosmora, where she'll use what Ember Lab describes as an alchemy-based form of spirit guiding. But here's the detail I keep coming back to. In the trailer footage we've seen, there's something on Kana's arm. Scars, blue lines, pulsing like veins of energy running underneath her skin. Ember Lab describes the sequel as Kana seeking to understand her affliction. And that's what it looks like. Something in her that's grown, or surfaced, or finally become impossible to ignore. Here's the thing though. Go back to Bridge of Spirits, in a few cutscenes, and you have to be looking for it. You can catch glimpses of the same lines on her arm, the same blue pulse, though it's mostly hidden under her sleeve, but it is there if you look. They planned this from the beginning. This wasn't added for the sequel, it was always there, hidden in plain sight since 2021. And then there's this. In the Scars of Kosmora trailer, we hear Kana speak what sounds like a spirit guide's incantation. Fear will bind you, gripping to the present which must always pass. Regret will bind you, longing for the past you cannot change. Love will bind you, yearning for a future you will not see. Unbound, may you depart in peace. Read that again, knowing what we just spent this whole video talking about. Fear. Toshi, who couldn't accept the world would take his people from him. Regret. Taro, who spent his afterlife blaming himself for not saving his siblings. Love. Adira, who couldn't leave because leaving meant forgetting Hana. 3 spirits, 3 lessons, 3 lines of an incantation Kana is now speaking in the sequel like she's carried them with her the whole time. And that's because she has. Whether Ember Lab mapped that deliberately, or it emerged naturally from the same themes, I don't know, but it fits too cleanly to be an accident. Bridge of Spirits always felt like the beginning of something. This is starting to look like the proof. If you played Bridge of Spirits when it came out, I hope this brought some of it back. These characters don't get a lot of screen time, but when you look at what each of them is actually going through, they carry a lot more than they first appear to. And if you haven't played it, it's short, 8 to 10 hours, beautiful, and it earns everything it goes for. I'll be covering everything of Scars of Kosmora as we hear about it, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned to the channel. Until then, happy gaming.